Hey students, we are starting a new unit today, Unit 6, Day 1. Go ahead and put your name on your paper right here so that when we turn in our notes, you already have your name on your paper. This is a short unit, it's only 4 days, and we're going to fly right through it and have a test very quickly. So be sure you're staying on top of things, doing your notes daily, not falling behind because there's not going to be much time to get caught up. Okay, so this is an introductory unit to similarity. We just covered congruent. Congruent is same shape, same size. Similarity is same shape, different size. And you'll see that as we get into tomorrow's lesson. So today we're just going to do an introductory lesson on ratios and extended ratios because it kind of fits nicely with this unit. So what is a ratio? A ratio is a comparison of two or more quantities. Okay, so basically a ratio is just comparing two or more things. Ways to represent a ratio. Okay, we can represent a ratio as a fraction. We can represent a ratio using the word to. And you hear me say this, I will say A to B. A to B, that's what it would look like. You can write it this way. But the most common way is to write it with this notation. Okay. The thing about ratios is whether it's written in this form, or this form, ratios can be simplified. And I don't even want to use the word can, I want to put must. Okay, so if you don't simplify, we all know we're supposed to simplify fractions, but because a ratio can be written like this and like this, we also have to simplify the answers when they're in this form. So here's an example. If I gave you the fraction 8 over 12, okay, I'm going to show you in the calculators again how to do this. So on our calculator, if you go 8, hit the ABC key, and hit 12 and hit enter, it will reduce the fraction for you, so you are expected to reduce. If it was improper, let's say 12 ABC 8, like that, it's going to give us 1 and 1/2. But if you look right here above the ABC key, it says change a mixed number to an improper fraction. You hit second and hit the ABC key again, and that would be 3 over 2. So regardless, you do need to use your calculators or your brain. 4 goes into 8 2 times, 4 goes into 12 3 times to reduce that. If you're in a graphing calculator, no matter which way you type it in, you're going to always do the same thing. So if I say 8, you're going to hit divided by 12. And on this calculator, your best friend is math, enter. So math, the first one is always change your answer to a fraction, enter, and then enter, and it changes us to a fraction, whether it's proper or improper, because we're always changing the decimal to a fraction. Math, enter. Okay? So I like using the graphing calculator because it is quicker. So we're going to put that this equals 2 over 3. So we know that if we have a fraction, we can reduce it. But also, if you see it written like this, that is also reduced 2 to 3. Okay? All right, so here's an example. A music store has 40 trumpets, 39 clarinets, 24 violins, 51 flutes, and 16 trombones in stock. Give each as a simplified ratio. Okay, so if I wanted to know trumpets to violins, there are 40 trumpets and there are 24 violins. And you can write it like this. You can write it like this. You can write it like this. This is the way I prefer. And so then we would use our calculator. And for this one, math, enter. And so that reduces to 5 over 3. Remember the other calculator, you use your ABC key. So we would have to write our answer 5 to 3. Now, I do want to remind you, whatever word comes first has to be the first thing you write down. Whatever word comes last has to be the last thing that you write down. If you wrote 3 to 5, it would be wrong. There are not 3 trumpets to 5 violins. It's a completely different answer. Okay, flutes to clarinets. So there are 51 flutes over here, and there are 39 clarinets. And you look at that and you're like, yeah, does it reduce? Well, our calculator will tell us. It does reduce 17 to 13. Okay. Would you please do number 3 and number 4? I'm going to cover up the answers. Stop the video, do number 3, number 4, and we'll check your answers when you come back. All right. If you have these done, let's check your answers. You should have them done. All right. So there were 16 trombones to 40 trumpets. That reduces 2 to 5. Let me show you in the other calculator just one more time. If you were going to put this in this type of calculator, you use the ABC key. Looks like that. And then it gives you the answer right away. So be sure you're using your brain. 8 goes into both of these if you're using your brain to do this and not the calculator. And then violins, total instruments, you would add all these together. And so then that reduces 12 to 85. That is middle school math. Okay, you should have no trouble with that unless the question is just a little tricky. So then an extended ratio. So an extended ratio is a comparison of 3 or more quantities. And extended ratios have to be written either with the word to or with this notation. And this is the notation that you're going to see for the extended ratios. Okay, so we're going to take what we've learned in geometry and apply it to these extended ratio problems, and then do some algebra to get our answers. Make sure you're seeing what the final question is before you move on to the next question. So it says the ratio of 2 complementary. So my first thing is, what does that word mean? Okay, complementary means that angles are going to be adding to 90 degrees. And then this is where we get our math from, okay, the 3 to 7. This says find the measures of both angles. So we're going to come up with an algebra equation to solve this. You can logically try to figure this out, but the algebra equation is the for sure way to figure it out. So this is the process. You take your extended ratio and you're going to write that down. So we're going to come over here and we're going to write this down with x's. Okay, so we're going to put x's into the problem. So I'm going to say 3x plus 7x, and because it said complementary, these are adding to 90. So this will be different depending on what the problem is asking you, but we will simply put x's with our extended ratio. And this is just a regular ratio. This isn't an extended ratio till we get down here. But we put x's with it, and then we figure out what we're going to be adding to. Okay, the algebra is easy. 3x plus 7x is 10x. And then we get x equals 9. I do not want to know what x is. I want to know the measure of the angle. So this is what we do. We go back up to just the parts that have the x. This would give me one of my answers. This would give me the other answer. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the 3x, okay, and I'm working out what I'm plugging in. So basically I'm putting 3 times 9, which equals 27 degrees. And then for the 7x work, I'm saying 7 times 9, which gives us 63 degrees. Now, how do I know I'm correct? Because these two angles add to 90. Should make sense to you. You do not have to show me this work. You can do this in your calculator. You don't have to write this down. You just can simply write down your 2 answers and be done. So if you're going to write down your 2 answers, you would put 27 degrees, 63 degrees. You do not have to show me work to get those answers, and just circle it or put a box around it to show me that's what it is. Okay? All right. Question number 6 is very similar to question number 5, except for it has this word, which you should know what that means. So I want you to do number 6 and then answer the question, and then we will see if you got it right. All right. Let's see if you got that right. So here's my work. Supplementary, add two angles that add to 180. Here's my ratio. So I put x's with those. 4x plus 1x equals 180. 5x equals 180. Divide by 5. X equals 36. Remember, you do not have to show me this work. You can simply plug 36 into your calculator. And I know these are correct because these two angles add to 180. All right, moving on. Number 7. So the ratio of the measures of the angles in a triangle. Well, what do you know about that? I know that the angles inside a triangle add to 180 degrees. And here is my extended ratio. Find the measure of all of the angles again. Okay, so we're going to say 4x plus 7x plus 9x equals 180 because we were talking about the angles inside a triangle. That's going to give me 20x. Divide both sides by 20. We get x equals 9. And then once again, you can show the work or you can just do this in your calculator. So I'm going to say 4 times 9, 7 times 9, and then 9 times 9. And all of these represent the angles inside a triangle. My answer is 36 degrees, 63 degrees, 81 degrees. I know this is correct because those angles add to 180 degrees. Okay, so let's talk about number 8, and then you're going to do this. It says the ratio of the measures of the angles in a triangle, and find the measure of the largest angle. So instead of having 3 answers, you're only going to give me 1 answer. And how would you figure out which one gives you the largest angle? You should be able to answer that as well. So go ahead and pause your video or answer the question. It'll pause the video for you, and we'll come back and see if that's correct. Okay, so let's check and see what you got. All right, now, if you put all 3 answers, you just need to circle the one that's the largest, perfectly fine. But the largest comes from the largest extended ratio value, which is 11 times x. And so 11x plus 2x plus 5x equals 18x. We're inside a triangle, so they add to 180. Divide by 18, you get x equals 10. And then all I had to do was that simple little work in my calculator to get 110. Okay, turn over. The ratio of the measures of the sides of a triangle are 2 to 8 to 9. And then we're talking about perimeter. So if they're talking about perimeter, they have to tell you what that is. So this is going to be 2x plus 8x plus 9x equals 76. This is the perimeter outside of a triangle. Find the length of each side. So we add these together. We get 19x. Divide both sides by 19, and you get x equals 4. And then same thing, I'm going to plug into 2x, I'm going to plug into 8x, and I'm going to plug into 9x. It's going to give me all 3 of those values. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 4 is 32. 9 times 4 is 36. All 3 of those numbers should add up to 76. You can double check yourself. But my sides are 8 inches, 32 inches, and 36 inches. Okay, I want you to do number 10. Pause your video, do number 10. When you come back, I'll have the answer on there. All right, let's check your answer. And so 10x plus 15x plus 6x adds up to 217. It's a perimeter problem. We get x equals 7. The algebra is super easy on these. And it said, what's the length of the shortest side? I only have to plug in where the 6 is. So I said 6 times 7, which is 42 meters. Okay. All right. So then the rest of this is super easy. It's just cross multiplying. It's saying, what is a proportion? You're going to hear me say, set up the proportion, set up the proportion. And so we need to know what a proportion is. And we're going to do a lot of cross multiplying throughout the rest of the notes. So a proportion is an equation that states two ratios are equal. A proportion is written as A over B equals C over D. To solve the proportion, we will cross multiply, which means we multiply the A and the D, and that will equal the B times the C. And then, of course, it's just going to be simple algebra. So I'm not doing all of these. I'm only going to do a couple of them. And then we'll be done. Okay, so first of all, you do number 11. You should know how to do number 11. Go ahead and do that on your own, and we'll check your answer. Okay, so you should get x equals 14, and it doesn't matter if I say 4 times 7 and put the 28 over here, and 2 times x and put the 2x over here. I just simply, no matter what, put the x's over here, and there's no rhyme or reason to how I do this. It's just how I see the problem, but it doesn't matter what's on what side. You're still going to get the same answer. Okay, let's do number 13 together. So what I want you to remember is that when we have a binomial, that binomial is assumed to be in parentheses. And so when I multiply these together, I do recommend that you think about what you're doing up here. You're saying 2 times x and 4 times 7. This is 4 times 7 right here. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to say 19 times x minus 1. Now we typically put the number in front and then the parentheses next. Okay, 19 times x minus 1 equals 6 times 13. Okay, you know you're going to distribute. 19 times x is 19x. 19 times negative 1 is negative 19. 6 times 13 is 78. It's just an algebra problem, and yes, you do get a lot of decimals in your on your worksheet today. So we're going to add 19 to both sides. 19x equals 97, and I'm going to divide that out. So you can give me 1 or 2 decimal places, it doesn't matter. So let's do just 5.12, 5.12. And if you wanted to give me 1 decimal place, it would have been 5.1. And whatever my answers say, just know that you can know that your answer is pretty much correct if you're close. Okay? All right, so how will you do on number 16? Go ahead and pause your video and let's see how you do on number 16. You do get a whole number answer. All right, here's our work. So I said 18 times 3x plus 4. I wrote it down like this. I promise you, if you write it down like this, you won't mess up. And then 12 times 15, distribute, do the algebra, you get x equals 2. All right, go ahead and do number 18 as well, and then we'll be done with this set of notes. I will go ahead and tell you, you should get a decimal answer. All right, let's check your answer. So I did 6 times x plus 3, 7 times x plus 16. It doesn't matter which side you have what on. Distribute. And then I moved all my variables to the left, my numbers to the right by subtracting and subtracting. Divide by 11 and you get 8.55. If you're rounding to the 10th place, it's not 8.56 because that 4 doesn't change the 5. If you're rounding to the 100th place, the 5 does move that up. So be careful with your rounding. Try to be accurate with it. Okay, so we are not doing these. Go ahead and put some X's. So when I check your notes, I know that we didn't have to do those and everything else was completed. You are done. Please go in and mark this video as done, and we will do the next worksheet in class the next day that I see you. Thanks, students.